Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, we're joined by Phil Davies, who is from Phil Davies Online. Those who are into their sport and their rugby will recognise Phil as a rugby coach for the Scarlets, the Blues, and also Namibia in the recent Rugby World Cup. But Phil's pivoted a bit now since ending his rugby coaching career or parking it for a bit. Or I think you're still doing something with the Leeds, aren't you, Phil?
Yeah, I'm still coaching, Mike. It's a passion of mine, and it's back at my old club, Leeds, which was the club where I started coaching first of all, of course. So it's gone back there to help and support the club, trying to, reset it a little bit. There were a couple of poor years. So we're just trying to, reset and move forward again. So I'm still coaching, but very much, developing all my leadership from my, experience as an international rugby player and international coach over the last 30 odd years, which seems ridiculous when I say that, but how quickly time goes,
Yeah, definitely. So obviously the Phil Davies Online is the business side of your business, if you like, and that's obviously all the leadership, the coaching, and all of that, like you said. And 30 years is a long time. Myself, I've been in the entrepreneurial space for 30 odd years myself, because I started at 11. I was lucky to get into it early, I understand once you've done something for 30 odd years, a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, once you start to get into that sort of timeline, you do become an expert and you start becoming like grandmaster level, and you've got a lot to give, haven't you? You've got a lot to give other people.
Yeah, I'm very lucky actually in the experiences I've had. I think somebody asked me the other day to sort of summarize it, and I think I've played and coached in over 22 countries around the world, and the experiences and the people that you meet having that sort of opportunity is wonderful. It's amazing, really, and the lessons you learn, and the reflection as well. I think what COVID has given, I think a lot of people, well, all of us really, is time to reflect and certain things that were niggling me about my career, maybe that I hadn't perhaps really had a good time to reflect on. I've done that and taken responsibility and accountability for certain things, and you look about the things you do well also, when you learn and you move on. And that's what, this last 6 months in particular has been quite a rich period for me, very cathartic in many ways. And yeah, I realise how lucky I've been and how much you've got to give to try to make a difference and help other people, and that's what life's all about, in my opinion, as well, helping others and giving back,
Yeah, definitely. That's the sort of same mission that I'm on. Obviously, you're educating them on your leadership ability and skills and that, and I'm educating people on sales, marketing, personal development, all the things that I sort of spend a long time researching and learning about. And I think it is, it's definitely great to give back and to help others who are, further behind on their journey. The more people you can help accelerate their journey, the more people you can inspire, and whatever, the better it is for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important to, to be able to give, to give back. And like I say, everybody talks about gratitude. People talk about reflection. And those are the two key sort of words that have come up, in my mind over the last few, months, doing like the Leaders Locker that I've looked at. And, that's a series of frameworks that, that I've sort of implemented and learned during the course of, the last, as I say, 30 odd years. Operating under pressure is one, a framework to deal with that, and how you identify pressure and how you manage pressure. Times where I look back, I did it really well. Times where I look back and I haven't done it so well. But the learnings from the both sides of that, have created a framework that will hopefully help people in future. You talk about building cultures. Culture for me is all about high performance behaviors and how you behave week in, week out. In an environment, and you behave in that environment to make it successful. And so those are just a couple of examples of the frameworks we've developed, for businesses, over reflecting and over the past few months, which has been really interesting. And I'll be putting those, to the test in over the next few years, months, years, to hopefully help others,
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and yeah, like you've been doing your leaders locker. I created two formulas during lockdown. One was the happiness formula, and one was the success formula, and that's based on my career and what I've seen, and yeah, so I think it's great to take your knowledge and information, put them into an easier to learn sort of methodology, if you like, and then take it out there to the people who need to learn that extra level of information that you obtain from pure sort of time in the game, really, time served and experience, etc.
Yeah, a lot of people speak about, about plans, Mike, and about processes and all that, and they're all important. But ultimately, for me, before you start any process or put any plan in place, you've got to create a real clear purpose, a real why of why you're here, really, what gets you out of bed in the morning, and those things are so important. It's about getting the hearts and minds of the people, because all business and sport is about people, and it's about respecting them and finding out what makes them tick in order to be successful moving forward. The planning and the processing after that is quite easy. It's the why is so important. The what and the how come later for me. It's the why creates the motivation, the passion, and you get that from getting to know people and respecting them and taking them on a journey with you. That's the most important thing, before you start looking at any plans or processes.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of the big things I've come out of lockdown for me, what I've noticed has been the buzzwords. You mentioned sort of thoughtfulness, thinking, looking around you, and that, and gratitude. They are massive things as well. And I think sort of in the business sort of networking world that I've been in heavily, for the last 6 months, something that keeps cropping up, and is something which I found at the beginning of lockdown, and I think it's like you say, bang on point of the importance of why anyone should be doing anything that they're doing, and that's sort of mission, vision, and values, if you like. It's the thing you're trying to achieve, the reason you're trying to do it, the way you want to go about doing it, and all of that. And if you can get that framework right, then everything else you can sort of, the plan you can put into that framework, and then it's just about creating massive action and activity in the direction of whatever you want to go,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's what I've found over the years so important. My philosophy as a coach is always about, it's about athlete centered, people centered, player centered, whichever way you want to look at that, and then it's about developing them, development driven, and then it's about supporting them in competitions. So those are the three little key things that always underpin what I do. And it's important to choose good values. It's important to realize as well that talent is not sufficient enough to succeed. It's all about passion, commitment, effort, hard work. All those things are very important, and also dreaming big. Being positive, like you said to me, you want to be, you're doing an average of 10 podcasts a day. That's pretty committed. That's pretty passionate in terms of what you're trying to achieve, and that's what it's all about, really. I think it's having those frameworks and those passion, then the passion and the hard work to bring those frameworks to life, and achieve your dreams, achieve your goals, and that's very important.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and that's why, like, now I got a lot of Americans, so I used to find it hard to chat with people after 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening, because people still like to work 9 till 5 or that sort of thing. But now I'm getting Americans on, I can get them on, and it's still there 6 o'clock in the evening. So I do stuff up till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes, because, like you say, if you actually do find your mission, your vision, and your values, and you're passionate and enthusiastic about what you do, for me, it's not working. So I can do it any time of day and night. It's just, for me, it's socializing, it's helping people, it's connecting, it's working on my dream, it's making whatever I want to achieve happen. And you can't do it by sleeping or finishing early or not working Sundays, or you could do it. You could take all those times off and do it half-heartedly, but it'll take you twice as long. Or you can just go at it, full speed ahead, sort of thing.
Yeah, it is that old saying, carpe diem, which it's a very old saying, but it is about seizing, the moments and opportunities sometimes, as you say, and they don't always come at the ideal time. So you've got to, really, be committed and focused, and also what I think is important is having a sense of perspective, we're celebrating success, but also learning from the disappointments, and the failures as you go along, and remembering the people, who support you, on that journey as well, because you'll have your family, you'll have, some people in business will support you, and there'll be some people who won't support you as well, by the way. So, but it's important to have that sense of perspective in order to, as I say, to relate to people and to learn and reflect on things and move forward, really, whether, as I say, it's a positive, it's a successful outcome, or it's an outcome that perhaps you didn't envisage or you wouldn't have liked to happen, but it's happened, and you've just got to move on and learn from it,
Yes, definitely. So, yeah, with my formulas at the moment, I haven't sold them before. So you got to be able to give them away first, because if people aren't interested, you can't even give them away. So I'm going to get a few people on a couple of my courses soon, and then once you can give them away, then you can start charging for them. And once you've got the case studies and the feedback and the testimonials and how the results and how people have changed. So sounds like we're both at similar stages at the moment. I probably would have done that already by now, but I'm just so busy podcasting, I just finding the time, I'm probably not going to do 10 episodes a day forever. I'm probably going to do it till its first anniversary, and then I may drop it down, I may pick it up, who knows. You got to work to a plan, but you also got to be flexible to be able to adapt and change the plan depending on circumstances, timing, how many plans have gone, to shreds, really, literally, because of COVID. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta just do whatever's best for you at that time as well. But talking about plans, obviously, what's your plans with the Phil Davies? Because I know you've been busy and working and stuff. Where have you been at with that, and what are the plans for the future at the moment?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, the coaching is one plan, is going back and forth to Leeds to help, develop the club, and we're trying to take the club forward, in 4 key ways. We're trying to create best practice in coaching, talent ID, governance, and partnerships. So those are the 4 key areas that we're trying to build, and there are obviously different challenges within all of those areas. Partnerships is about trying to get, good sponsors on board, people you can develop the business with, both on and off the field. Coaching, is getting a clear way of playing, a clear way of behaving that can inspire people and aspire, the club to higher levels. So all those things are important from a coaching point of view, and from a business point of view, it's just making sure that, we're reconstructing our website now, and then we're looking at what are the products we can take and do conferences with, live and online, and then, what's the type of e-learning, space we can go into as well, like building high-performing teams. There's a framework towards, to doing that, to building the culture, to getting the right mentality in, to getting the right physical attributes, to recruiting and retaining people who've got good character and good intelligence, as well as the right skills to do the job for you, So there's all those things that we're looking at and developing in different markets, and it's exciting. It's 30 odd years of experience trying to make it as simple and as helpful as possible, so you can make a difference to individuals and into teams, into team lives as well, so they can become successful, Mike. So that's the challenge, mate, and that's the ongoing, stuff that we're up to. And we've recently finished. It was a really rewarding piece of work with West Berkshire Youth Trust, supported by the Greenham Trust. It was all about creating the best version of yourself with a group of 16-year-old young people in that area. And we talked about communication, we talked about decision making, we talked about what's the champion mindset. And we looked at goal setting, and that was so rewarding, because these young people, they're the future for us. And, some of their comments and their thought processes was truly inspirational, and that was a really nice piece of work that we did over the summer with a good friend of mine called Mr. Derek Peeble. He's, I think arguably one of the most inspiring teachers I've ever met. And he's a retired headmaster now of a school in Newbury, and that was a really interesting piece of work we did, and the impact it had on the young people was wonderful and great to see. So there are things like that as well, when you're looking at younger people, and then you're looking at more of the business side in some of the other frameworks I've mentioned.
Yeah, well, if ever you need any help, you want to take a fresh voice and a different perspective up to Leeds, I got a bit of Yorkshire in me, so that's fair. I'm very direct, very straight to the point, but I'm a passionate Welshman as well. But obviously, I got some contacts of businesses up in Yorkshire as well, big businesses, because I only used to deal with 10 million plus turnover businesses. And I used to go up to Leeds quite a lot because, I don't know, I love Leeds. Leeds is a very similar city to Cardiff, and having been from Cardiff all my life, I really have an affinity with Leeds, and because I got a bit of Yorkshire in me. But I could definitely go up there and help, whoever's involved in the corporate sponsorship and all that, probably have some fresh ideas and fresh perspective. But I also did a bit of preparation for after the game training with the WRPA, the Welsh Rugby Players Association in Wales, where I had a little chat with them about maximising their moment in the sun, because the sun will disappear soon, and the more they can maximise their moment in the sun with things like growing their social media following, doing networking after the game with the businesses and stuff, the more chance they got of getting a good career or a good opportunity, or a bit of a leg up into whatever business they do following rugby. If they really work at growing their social media rather than let it grow organically, instead of being left after the game with 1,000 followers, they might have 10,000, or instead of 10,000, they might have 100,000. And obviously that means then they've got 10 times the value to potentially do business with, or all of that. So if that's something that you think would benefit anyone at some point, I'd be more than happy to come along with you one day, even if it's up and back in the same day. I used to do that in my sales director days, up and back in the same day to Leeds, no problem.
It's a long old way, that is. It's a long old road trip for a day. But yeah, no,
3 hours,
I appreciate
3.5, 4 hours up, 3.5, 4 hours back, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. Spending 10 hours in the car, but there's plenty of podcasts to listen to anyway. But I appreciate that. All support is always welcome, that's for sure. And we've the club is very much in a reset and rebuild phase, and there's been unbelievable work that's gone on there over the years, but it's been difficult over the last couple of years for varying reasons. It's exciting. It's as I say, I feel a sense of duty in many ways, because I was there for 10 years in the first instance, where we went from the 4th division into the Zurich Premiership. It was then. It's now the Gallagher Premiership in England, and it was just an amazing experience. With some wonderful people, and playing at Headley Stadium, which is an iconic sports venue in throughout the world, but particularly in England, the UK, and Yorkshire. There's been some brilliant rugby league matches there, brilliant Ashes cricket and Test cricket there. So it's a great city. It's very vibrant. It's one of the biggest financial capitals outside of London, and it was a very affluent city, beautiful area. So I just feel a sense of duty that we can try to reshape it and push it forward with some really young and exuberant people, both on and off the field. So yes, really excited. Really excited.
You mentioned the financial side of things. One of my contacts, I used to work for a credit reference agency, and one of our partners was Core Credit, who are based in the city centre in Leeds, and they're a B2C consumer agency. So in my thought process, they'd be ideal to sponsor a rugby club, because obviously all of the supporters would need to do their credit profile. So they could sell a consumer credit checking product similar to what Experian do, which is for being able to credit check and vet your own profile, so that you know what lenders are looking at when they're checking you out for giving you loans and stuff, They'd be a great potential partner for the club.
Yeah, well, all partners are gratefully received, that's for sure. I can see that. Yeah. Oh, excellent. Well, we'll chat off air about that, Michael.
No problem at all. And what about as well? I went to see Carlsberg up there, or one of the breweries. I'm sure it was Carlsberg. They had a massive operation in Leeds. Have they ever been
Yeah,
involved?
you got Tetley's. Yeah, you got Tetley's brewery as well. They're obviously Tetley's bitter. They're huge up there as well. So
And is
yeah,
that
as well, I
broadband
think
as well, isn't it? Is that broadband? That's Yorkshire as well. There's a Michael thing on the adverts. There's all Yorkshire. They have
yeah.
Michael Parkinson.
There's some big companies, some big national companies moved in. I know Channel 4 have gone there, Sky Bet are there now, and there's some really, really, they're just a few that somebody mentioned to me the other day, but there are, there's some wonderful, companies up there, so it's, look, it's a passionate football city. It's brilliant to see Leeds back in the Premier League, because when I was up there, my last visit between 96 and 2007, Leeds were in their pomp in the early 2000s in Champions League semi-finals and things. So I know how much it means to the city for them to be back in the Premier League. And, the Leeds Rhinos, again, have had, amazing success rugby league-wise. And, Headingley now is a world-class venue, for cricket, test cricket, county cricket. It's amazing. So, the potential of it is brilliant. And, rugby union is been part of Leeds for a number of years. But, but football and rugby league have always taken the lead, and that's the passion up there. But there is also a passion for rugby union at the right level. So, that's our challenge, and that's the exciting bit that we've got to try and do, is get the club back up into the higher levels of English rugby,
Yeah, well, they love their sport in Yorkshire, and are really good at it as well. That Yorkshire grit pays off, and actually, I was at the game which sort of started the spiral for the football team. When Cardiff beat them in the FA Cup, and then the team was at the top of the Premier League, was it the Premier League or was it the Championship? It was the Premier League, I think, at the time. They were at the top of the Premier League and in Europe, and then that was the sort of demise of them. They lost in the FA Cup, and they lost their confidence and dropped down the league, and then out of the league. And that's confidence is a big thing in sport, isn't it? Once you're on a run and momentum's going your way, it's great. And once it turns the other way, it can be very hard to stop.
Yeah, somebody said to me once, it's like riding the waves, really, and you've got to ride them and try and stay on as long as you possibly can. And when you fall off, you've got to get back on again and do exactly the same. And that's the way it is. There are things that you can't control, and the things you can control, and that's like what I was saying earlier is about having a sense of perspective, and having perseverance, and that's why life isn't easy, sport isn't easy, is it? So it's having that focus on the process and practice with, good effort and a good attitude, and that can get you a long way, So yeah, it never goes in a straight line, for sure.
No, that's why, momentum and psychology are two of the massive things in sport that you can't predict pre-season, which is why a lot of the time the teams that go on and do well are the ones who just started well. So that, the start is often the key part of the season. And I know all the titles get handed out at the end, but sometimes if you can get onto a run, then teams that you're not expecting to do well, all of a sudden they start winning, and then the confidence comes up, and then they just don't look like losing,
Yeah, it is. It is important to get momentum early on, and then as you go through the season, the efficiency and the effectiveness of your operation week in, week out, then gives you the best opportunity to achieve the outcomes you want to make. You can't always do that. That's not always possible for varying reasons, because there's so many variables in sport. But the expectation you get, the scrutiny you come under, and the circumstances as well at times, they all heap pressure on you, and it's how you manage those. And that's what I've learned over the years, is to respond to the preparation, to the pressure situations, rather than react. Don't shoot the messenger type of approach. When you react, it's not very helpful. It becomes emotional, and you lose your perspective, and you lose your way. So it's so important when you get pressure, respond to them, and get things in a good place. You can follow them week in, week out.
Yeah. I'm doing the A to Z of leadership at the moment on my podcast. I do a lot of A to Z series where I go through different letters to do with different words, different meanings, and pick out some coaching or tips or whatever with that. And I was on C yesterday, which was for calm, because obviously good leaderships need to be able to stay calm under certain situations. Now that can be difficult to do when it's just yourself. But what's that like, trying to stay calm under pressure when you've got, the media and 30,000 fans or 20,000 fans or 10,000 fans, and you've got that week in, week out sort of media and pressure and hype. What's that like? How can you stay calm in those situations?
Yeah, it's again, it's understanding, it's having that perspective, it's having that perseverance, but it comes down, for me, it comes down to preparation. When it comes down to preparation and then clarity in your preparation. I remember, there was one game when I was coaching professionally. It was a European game, and the side, we had a lot of stars in it, but we were short on preparation, and I knew that as well. But I didn't react in the way that I should have reacted after the game, because I was a little bit uncertain about this, wasn't clear about that, and went against a few of my instincts on certain things and listening to other people, and it caused a problem. But when you are well prepared and you're clear about your preparation and you're clear about your outcomes, you can be calm, because sometimes things happen that you have no control over, and that's the key thing about dealing with pressure. It's understanding firstly where it's coming from, and then having a process to deal with it after, and that comes down to preparation and clarity in your preparation, and that's what you stick to at the end of it all. You don't want to lose if it's a win-loss scenario. If it's a results-based situation, which normally things are in sport, if you've got your preparation right and you're clear about it, you can deal with it in a calm and measured fashion. But if you're unclear and your preparation hasn't been quite what it is, that adds to it. So that adds to the uncertainty. So if you've got good preparation, good clarity, that allows you to be comfortable being uncomfortable, I suppose, when you get a result that you're not happy with, or indeed when you get a result you're happy with. It's quite easy then, obviously, but it's those times when you've got to keep calm is important, and it's about preparation and clarity, really.
Yeah, definitely. And there's one more thing, I because you do leadership training and stuff, and I put something on my podcast as well about leadership. I think it was yesterday or the day before now, because I think, the leadership from the government, is UK government more particularly. I think Wales has been better and Scotland's been a bit better as well. But it's been very sort of flip-floppy. It's very sort of like changing their mind and jumping from one thing to the next. And to me, that's not great leadership. To me, it should be a bit more consistent. This is the direction we're going, and being nimble to pivot around certain things. But to me, it's just too much. It's too much, like every week changing the rules and nobody knows what's going on and all that sort of thing. What's your thought process on how things have been going during this time?
Yeah, I think it's important, as a leader, that you have to have a disciplined way of doing, or a disciplined way of approaching things. And I think, maybe the government have struggled on that. As you said, Wales has been pretty good at it. But also, if you've got good discipline in your processes, then you can be adaptable. And I think there's nothing wrong with being adaptable at times, or flexible. And sometimes, information coming in, because we are in a bit of an unprecedented time as well, and the pre-planning for situations like this, I would imagine, would have been very important. And that's what gives you the discipline in the first instance to react to something like this. And then as you go along, you collate information, and you have to be adaptable and flexible, Mike. And also then you need a balance of making sure that you give people, the facts, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. But, you look at providing balance, positives. At times there might be some negative stuff, but you can also balance it with some positive stuff. And I think that's what's been missing as well. There's never been, a lot of balance in the reporting or in the way that people have got things across, So I think discipline is important. Adaptability or flexibility, whichever way you want to look at it, is crucial. But also then the balance of the message that you're getting across to people, really helps. And I think that's been, maybe on occasions, that's been a bit lacking, But I certainly think sometimes if decisions are changed, hopefully they're being changed in the light of, information or increased information that there's help them to change and adapt and make a better decision, for the benefit of the long term, So I think that's okay. But I think where perhaps we struggle is pre-planning, and then the discipline to carry out that initial pre-planning has maybe been something that perhaps they'd reflect on. They could have done better, but I don't know, But that's how I would look at it. Your pre-planning gives you a discipline, and then you need to be adaptable, and you need balance in how you communicate things as well,
Well, that's the thing. As a communicator myself, I think that's where a lot of the problems have gone, fallen down, as well as in the communication, because not only are they flip-flopping around in decisions, but they're actually not communicating it very well. There's a lot of wishy-washy words, and it allows people to think of grey areas when they're trying to actually tell people black and white what to do or what not to do. So that's where I think some of the problems have come. And I think what's his name, Rishi or whatever, the Home Secretary.
Yeah.
He's been better. I think he's been a lot more sort of statesman-like and leadership-like through this process, I think. But I don't know if it's Boris's illness or, Boris likes to come across as a buffoon, but he's not a buffoon. He's a really intelligent man. But he seems to have been missing in a few times, and maybe this is illness, or he haven't come back full steam, or he's just like, oh, I don't want to get involved. But to me, someone like Churchill, for example, who's one of the country's greatest ever leaders, he didn't go missing during an important time, and this is the sort of next biggest important time the country has faced since the last one, since the Churchill time. And I don't think Boris has stepped up to the plate as much as he could have done. He could have seized the opportunity and being a better leader,
Yeah, I think, I don't know, with that illness, fortunately, I'm not suffering it, but, that more than likely knocked him for 6. That's taken a bit of time to recover for sure. And I think, when all this is said and done, I think one thing, I think he'll be looking at, or, is the team of people around him as well, because they his senior sort of, cabinet ministers, I think, we look at their leadership qualities as well. I think there'll be a lot of reflection on the back of all of this, I'm sure, and hopefully the country will come out stronger,
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not unrealistic, and this is a major time. So, at the end of the day, everything's always got to be taken through the what do they call it? The vision or the perspective of the fact that this is unprecedented and it's a major thing. But I just think there's been a few leaders on the globe, like the New Zealand one, and I think Nicola Sturgeon's probably, out of all the UK leaders, probably come across the most in control of the situation. Maybe that's just because she's got a more stern approach, and maybe this sort of rules and regulations time, I think it does, it needs a stern approach a bit, and it needs a bit of, of clear communication, because I think, in a whole, a lot of communication has been wishy-washy, and so people have just done what they wanted, and that's probably why there's going to be another second wave. It looks like it's coming, anytime now.
As you say, mate, leaders set the examples, and you could look at different examples where that hasn't happened, where the leadership example hasn't been set, and at the end of the day, because it's been so unprecedented, you need clarity and you need empathy in times of uncertainty, and I think that's, again, maybe clarity and empathy as perhaps, as I'd like to suggest, hasn't been there. But most of the countries that have been successful with dealing with coronavirus are led by women, and and if you think women are very clear, and they show a lot of empathy, and maybe that's been something that's been a success for them, good clarity of message, and an understanding of empathy, and that's what uncertain times needs, I believe,
Yeah, I think that's definitely been part of it. I think a bit more empathetic leadership, but also I think as well, I think there's quite a bit of judging sometimes in where success and failure has been, and some of it has just been circumstantial. So I think there's been people, for example, who've turned around and go, we've been good, we haven't had no effects, and maybe now they're having the effects now, and they maybe just jumped the gun a little bit, and it was just about regional spread, and some people hit it, some like London and places like that, it hit first, because of the big population and the geographical transition state of the place. People going in and out much more. And there were other parts of the country, like Scotland, stuff saying, "Oh, we're not as bad as England," and all of that. I think it was just maybe, they locked down before it really hit, and now there's some places that are being hit now because they didn't get the first wave, and they're having their first wave now,
And just again, mate, I think it's that sense of perspective, about celebrating some of the good stuff that we've done during this period, like the furlough scheme, and like the Chancellor said, you go out to eat and 50% off and all this stuff. They're successes for sure. But then also learning from things perhaps that haven't gone so well, and being able to articulate that openly to people. So again, I think sometimes that's been a little bit lacking. But look, as I said earlier, it's been a real unprecedented time, as everybody will agree with, and it's hopefully we'll learn from it and we'll move forward, and everybody will come out as healthy and as happy as possible, Mike.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I can see you've got a phone going there, and I got something else I got to do now. So I'd love to stay on and chat some more, but we'll have to do it another time because I've got to go, and it sounds like you're in demand too.
No, thanks. Sorry, I was a little bit late as well. Thank you. Top man. We'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. All the best. Right, nothing else left to say other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. Cheers. Bye-bye.